wait. What?
Welcome. And we're already getting put into check, gentlemen. The wife, shut up. He's got my arm again.
That's right. I got your arm this time, but it's alive.
Hold on.
I have you beat for the night.
Oh, no.
We are going to be tinfoil at night. Let's do it.
Oh, shoot. Oh, this should be fun, man. This should be fun.
Hold on.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all in chat. So happy to see everybody here.
I'm undercover.
Definitely.
You're undercover.
We must be talking Idaho 4. Oh, my God. And to think I quit drinking and I'm still doing things like this.
There's a lot worse things you could be doing in Vegas right now, I'm sure.
That's right.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it all out as we speak. Which machine will hit tonight?
Lisa loves you.
Lucky knows all about that, right? Lucky?
I'm telling you.
Well, it's good to have you gentlemen back on again tonight. I always enjoy spending time with you. Great conversation, good friends. Why don't you guys go and open it up? Say hi to all your buddies that are in the chat, and I'll let you take over.
Well, yeah, appreciate everybody that's out there. Had a really good live last night, and hoping to kind of follow that through tonight with great conversations. We were talking before we started. We're going to try to focus more on answering your questions. So fire away, and we'll do the best we can to keep up with it. But we're looking forward to it big time. So
we did bring Jen into the mix tonight to help us with this, gentlemen, because we all suck at it. So
right. What about you, Lucky? What do you got to say?
No, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like there's a lot of information floating around right now. So I feel like we're getting a lot of little pieces and parts to plug into, the stories we've been following for a year and a half.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so everybody knows, right now we are streaming on both Myrtle Metal Mayhem and a Convict's Thoughts channel. So if you all want to like on both channels, comment, whatever, share, we appreciate it. And take it away, gentlemen. Idaho 4.
Hopefully here soon, Lucky, we get you up and going too, so we can, as this trio grows and begins working more together, we can visit each other and do different things and expand on even more than just the Idaho 4. I know this is such a catchy case for so many reasons, and so many people are interested. But like we've all seen, we got the Karen Reed case going on. We got Sebastian Rogers. We got so many things that we could deep dive into. And I look forward to actually working with all of you on a widespread range. So again, I appreciate you guys joining me and being a part of what we do here at the Convict's Thoughts. And, it's a pleasure to have you guys. So
it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Love talking to you guys. The chemistry last time was great. We did this, the three of us, and the viewers, man, they really, really, with a big cry said this was awesome and loved it. And so we've been looking forward to doing this one. And we've already talked about maybe doing this, periodically, on a schedule, like a monthly type things for you guys, if you like it. So let us know in the chat if you dig that and what you think about it.
Absolutely.
Just in my opinion, I think that we don't need to do this on a daily. We don't need to do it all the time. I think we keep it very special. We keep it unique. We come together when we get the opportunity once or twice a month to really enjoy the actual communities that we have. That's the best thing that all three of us have is our community.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's what matters most. I absolutely love the engagement that I watch it on your channels too. It's amazing to see, because I know how it feels for me. And then look at your guys' channels and they're all there too. and they're commenting and they're discussing and giving ideas, and that's what really matters. So
It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. I had a guy email me, and we all get a lot of emails, and it was a way out there idea, but I really started to think about it, and I'm like, man, like this maybe makes a little bit more sense than anything I've even heard to this date. And this case is so messed up, and so I'm going to do a video on this and just say, look, I know this is out there, but just hear me out. Let me tell you this. And I got an overwhelming outcry of people that were like, I've been thinking the same thing. Like, this is like right on the money. Now, again, I'm still not saying that I'm sold on this. I'm just saying this is something I had heard and wanted to see what people thought. But man, the reaction was so much different than I thought. I was going to get booed off the stage, but I was just trying to make people think differently about a case we know so much about and so little at the same time. So maybe just kind of shaking up the box and throwing it out on the table, maybe something from a different view that maybe would open up a door to something we never even thought of prior to that. So
I think a lot of it too is that I think that when we're thinking about things, we don't realize that a lot of other people are thinking about these same things, and maybe they're just not saying them out loud, So when I came out with a video about, Brian Koberger working with law enforcement, and, I wasn't really sure how that was going to be received, but I was surprised at how many people in the comments, were saying that they had been thinking the same thing.
Right.
It's cool. Really cool to watch. And Lucky, you and I have kind of discussed this back and forth, and so have Pete and I, the growth that we've seen. And that's because people actually are listening to what we have to say. They're not just blowing us off. I mean, yes, we get some of the negativity too, and that's okay. I'm completely open to people that have a different opinion than mine, a different thought process, because that allows me to grow within my thought process.
Right.
But I know all of you are in the same boat as me, is we want to hear the different versions of what people are seeing, because this case absolutely does not make sense to many of us from different backgrounds, different ways that we've lived our life, different things we've seen and become accustomed to calling common sense.
Right.
I've been around the judicial system on the bad side of things for so long that I've gotten so ingrained on what is the investigation, what do trials look like. And I look at the Idaho 4 and I shake my head and I go, are they reinventing the wheel altogether for this case? Because none of this stuff is normal. None of it. And I know listening to you guys, it allows me to feel more comfortable in my mindset, because I say, I'm not the only one that sees issues. Maybe we see different issues, but thankfully I'm not the only one that's looking at this, shaking my head and saying, man, this is foolish to even think this way, but
well, there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people, I think, who are also kind of second guessing what they initially thought in the case. Cause I've talked to a lot of people that thought for sure that Brian Koberger was guilty, and now they're contacting me and they're saying, I don't know, maybe he's not.
Right.
So, yeah.
And really, that's what we strive for, I think. And obviously you guys would have to speak for yourselves, but in my opinion, from what I've seen out of your guys' work, and then to kind of look at mine compared to you guys, because we do that. We compare, how's Lucky doing with certain types of topics? What's Pete doing with certain types? And, we're not all doing the same work, but we're relatively in the same ballpark on the feelings of open-mindedness of how we're looking at guilt or not guilt. We're right down the middle. We're just saying, hey, look, you've got to prove it better for me to say guilty, and you better show me something, But the defense has to show up as well and show proof that he didn't do it. Like, I'm not just going to say, because the prosecution didn't prove it, that the defense is off the hook and he didn't do it. No, you better show me something, because I know as a criminal, I've had it where I've gone into a case and the prosecution thought they knew what happened, but they couldn't tie it all together because they were missing just a few pieces. And I'm sitting there shaking my head, knowing you guys should really have me. You really should have me. And you just don't, because you're missing this and this and this. And in this case, if it is Brian Kohberger, they're missing some big pieces, in my opinion, because this case would have been locked down, and all three of us right here would be talking about a guilty Brian Kohberger, because there would be so much that just tied it all together that even us, the people that want to see the evidence, we couldn't debate it because it would be right there in front of us. I haven't seen anything that even opens a book for me to even begin reading the story that says it makes sense, because that PCA throws me completely into one part of the ballpark, and then the witness statements throws me into another complete ballpark, and then the actions of law enforcement just dumbfounds me. And it just, none of it adds up whatsoever. And then just watching, like you said, Lucky, every day there's something new that's kind of coming to the surface, and it's being done by the lead prosecutor, Bill Thompson, and Ann Taylor doing this little back and forth. And Bill Thompson's just throwing fits because Ann Taylor's starting to show the dominance. She's starting to show, you don't have this locked up, buddy. You don't have this case like you think you do. And I'm going to shove it down your throat until you puke and have to admit you don't have it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, you know, sorry, I got on a rambling rage I was doing my own video.
So we do have a question from Steve. He wants to know, why didn't we hear about the smell triggering a bodily response from anyone? It had to be horrific. So no bodily fluids like vomit or anything outside the front door. What do you guys think?
I think that's a valid point. I mean, I would have thought that house would have been, you know, pretty rough that many hours later. That's why I wondered if the front door was propped open was because of the smell. I also have pondered that the front door was propped open in an attempt to throw the time of death off because the house would be colder if they had, you know, the front door open and let's say that slider open. And I had somebody get all stupid with me in the comments about this. And I'm like, apparently you never heard about Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman. That's why they called him that, because he put the bodies literally on ice to throw the time of death off. So don't even go there. So, I mean, it's,
you know, it's kind of funny. When I was breaking into my affiliation, when I was, you know, back in my days of incarceration and following the lead of the prison politics, and they used to kind of refer to me like Richard Krastowski, the Iceman, because I was just so cold emotionally that nothing affected me. And I was going to ask the both of you, have you ever been in a place where you were with a body that had passed and you were there in an amount of time to see or smell what it's actually like? I don't know if you guys have been around that.
I have, and it's something you never forget. It's very distinct. Yeah.
So I had a cellie in the penitentiary die about 9 p.m. at night, and they didn't come take him out of the cell until noon the next day. And then they laid him in the hallway right outside of the cell for another day while they did their investigation. So I had him in my cell for over 12 hours, and then he was right outside my door for another god amount of time. And let me tell you, you can't breathe.
No.
Your eyes are watering. You're sick to your stomach the entire time. You do anything possibly you can do. You wrap your face with towels. You wet them down and stick them to your, and you can't get away from it. Lucky, you probably know.
Yeah, it's something, and it's something you recognize immediately.
and it stays with you for a very long time.
Yeah.
The smell and the thought and the feeling of it. Like, I still remember when I would walk down the run to go use the phone to be able to call my wife, I had to walk right where that body used to lay in that hallway. And I could smell it. Even when it was no longer there, I could still smell it because it still hit me. So
Wow.
I don't know. I just don't know how those two surviving, whatever you want to call them, roommates, victims, whatever people call them, I don't know how they don't. I mean, it hits you whether you're dead asleep, whether you're drunk and asleep. It doesn't matter what you are. That smell will hit you immediately.
How many hours in would that smell be there like that to where like almost like wake you up kind of a thing?
I think it also depends on the temperature of the room too. If it's
Right.
hot, it's going to be quick.
I mean,
if it's colder,
Yeah,
maybe
I'm just curious. Are we talking an hour, 6 hours?
Oh,
when
the guy died in my cell, it was about 48, 50 minutes, they said, when I started banging on my door to try to get somebody to come down to help. And of course, they just did their walks and ignored it. They didn't care. They would get to it when they got to it. But you could tell rather quickly because the body releases everything out of itself. So
right.
even if you don't smell the smell of death right away, you smell the bodily odors first.
Oh,
and
yeah.
those are overwhelming. Those are overwhelming. So
I don't know if you
anybody
guys
wants to argue that they didn't smell that in that house,
right.
that's why the front door had to have been opened.
I don't know
It
if you
has-
guys remember, but in the very beginning, I don't know if you guys heard this, but this is something that I heard, was that the heat in the house was on full blast.
I heard
Oh,
that, yeah.
wow.
I remember hearing that in the very beginning, that the heat was on full blast.
But wouldn't the heat make the smell even worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
In my
absolutely.
opinion.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
an oven. Yeah, it's like you're putting the body into an oven now. So now
Right.
Right.
not only are you putting the blood, the feces, everything that comes out of the body, everything about that is now being cooked at a 400-degree temperature, and
Right.
all of that's just going to aromatize. And I was talking with somebody very early, and it touches right to what you said, Lucky, and because I wanted to find out, was it snowing when this happened? Because people had the debate on how cold it was it snowy? And it wasn't snowing, but it had dropped below freezing, and it was like a colder night. And she really said there was nobody in the area that didn't have their heaters in their home turned on. So,
Right.
when that rumor came out that house had the full-blown heater going, it
Right.
makes sense because,
Sure.
I mean, we literally got probably some pampered college kids in there that aren't going to deal with 28 degrees weather well.
Right.
And they're going
Right.
to run that heater because they're not worried about the electricity bill anyway, so why not,
And
Yeah.
is it just me, or does anybody else remember that there was some heating and air conditioning company that was there that like the next day, and I can't find pictures of it anywhere, but
No,
when
it
I
wasn't
do
that
search for it, there's a vehicle, like a work vehicle backed up, but it's like some emergency response cleanup type thing that
It
comes
was
in.
about a week after the fact, and it was the air duct people is what they claim. Remember that, Lucky? They
I
had the
do
truck
remember that.
in there, and it was the air conditioning or heating company that showed up for the air ducts, and people were talking about how they were going to search them and see if there was any remnants of the car. I don't know. Another person reached out to me and said they had to come in there because the furnace of the house had been turned up heat-wise so much that it almost caught the house on fire.
Oh, wow.
That's what somebody told me. I don't know.
Interesting.
But
And
I
that
do
might
remember.
do the same, have the same effect as it being really cold. It being
Sure.
really hot might also change.
Speed it up. It's going to
Yep.
throw them off. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just did that DNA episode, and interviewed that Australian federal police officer, and we talked about, you know, some of this kind of stuff. And I had found on the internet some cutting edge technology coming out of, I think, British Columbia, where they're able to test DNA in the air. And that's why I got on that curiosity about the heating and air conditioning guy, because I remembered seeing it, but then every time I look it up, like I said, the only thing I see is something else. But you would think it's that, but when you actually look at the lettering, it's not. But could that be that they were actually using this cutting edge technology to extract the filters from the air conditioner to see, you know, if there was DNA that they were able to pick up? Because we shed, you know, thousands and thousands of skin cells a minute or an hour, some crazy amount. It makes you never want to like eat around other people ever in the rest.
Pete, I hate to cut you off, man. We're talking about Moscow, Idaho, that doesn't even know how to use body cams or how to tape record interviews.
Right. I know, that's why I was skeptical. That's why I was skeptical. Really wonder,
man, because they don't even interrogate quadruple homicide, you know, suspects, and they sure as hell, they know how to drive U-Hauls to take everybody's property home before the crime scene has been secured. So,
right.
I mean, well, they did say there were 30 or so FBI agents in town. That's why I thought maybe the feds came in with some kind of. I'm sure
there was a good buffet being served up at K-Bob's. You know,
I was going to say, were they at the house?
Yeah. Come on. Now, and you know what? That's a great question. What type of technology, what type of stuff were they trying to utilize? But you have to remember, very early on in this investigation, they actually had to bring in people to train and teach the investigators from Moscow how to properly handle the DNA, how to get the DNA samples to the different laboratories they need to go to, how to actually do blood testing and different things within the home. So they were learning on the fly, because I hate to say it, and this comes from people I feel are pretty credible. They're around law enforcement up in the area, not only just in Idaho, but I know people, you know, from the Washington state where I lived for a while, and I reached out to Montana and different smaller area communities that would be much like Moscow. And they're learning. They're having to be brought up to speed in a very quick manner, especially because of a case like this. They've never had this.
It's a small town.
So now when you're learning on the fly, that's a great question. Did they bring in this high-tech technology? Was the FBI there teaching them how to use it? That would be very interesting. It would be very interesting to learn that. But you also have to worry on the opposite side of that. If you're in training and learning, should that evidence be admissible in court? Because we don't know whether you did it right or not. You didn't know how to use it in the first place. So now what do we do? Right? Now what do we say? I'd be a pissed off defendant if I knew I got convicted by a team of individuals that didn't know how to collect my DNA.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think so. We're going to the Supreme Court. Let's go. Let me get my tinfoil hat back out again.
No, it's just that DNA evidence. People are really under false assumptions with it. You know, they just assume that DNA is DNA. And I know I've mentioned this before. I fell prey to that in this case. I thought it was over when I heard they had the guy's DNA, but then when I, you know, actually looked at it, it was just a completely different thing. But I think that's, I know we talked about this quite a bit last night, so I don't want to go into
Lucky,
that again.
I would love your opinion. Lucky, your opinion.
Well, I was actually just gonna, I was just gonna say that, as far as, you know, the DNA, I thought the same thing, because I was thinking his DNA is at the crime scene. But as soon as I found out that it was on a movable object, that just threw me. You know, if they would have found his DNA somewhere in that house, something that somebody couldn't just bring in with them, then I would have felt differently about it. But the fact that it was on a movable object, that sheath could have come from anywhere.
Right. And that's why our U.S. military doesn't allow it. The Australians
Well,
don't allow it because that cop was telling me if it's on they call it a transferable item, then it doesn't count because anybody could have left that there is how they
and I
look
just
at
tell
it.
you, coming from a criminal background like I do, and not only having to go to trial as many times as I did because I was stupid and didn't learn my lesson, but also seeing everybody else going to trial. It's one thing when they say, we have your DNA. We found your blood at the scene. We found your semen at the scene. We found your sweat, your saliva. Something, a part of you was there. And like you said, Lucky, on a piece that was already in the home before the crime.
Right.
Now, it's different if you find the actual weapon there. Whether it be a knife or a gun, or my hat, if I forgot my hat at the scene and it should have never been there, but now you have my hat. Now I can credibly say, okay, well, you have pictures of me wearing this very hat. Right. You know it's mine. That knife sheath, I don't know who the hell's that is. Nobody can tell me whose that is. Just because his DNA is on it doesn't mean it was his sheath. It could have been yours, Lucky. It could have been mine.
Yeah.
And you know what, guys? I brought a prop with me tonight. If we got on this topic, I actually shot a video today that comes out on Wednesday. But we know all this talk about brass button snaps, and I remembered, I have one of my old Army bags that I've kept 32 years. I've had this. But this was something I used to use when I went out into the field. It's a pilot's helmet bag, but it's got brass button snaps on the back. And I did a video on this because, people were questioning, was there like a clear coat on the button snap? And would that have left the DNA there longer and stuff? And, these obviously this old don't have any of that left. We don't know how old that knife sheath was. Was it something somebody bought at an Army surplus store that their grandpa gave them? Or was it somebody that bought it on Amazon? And I'll tell you what, if I see somebody else in the comments tell me that he bought that K-bar knife on Amazon and the coveralls at Walmart, I'm just going to throw myself through a window. I mean, seriously.
That sounds like a guy that sounds like a guy who would drive his own car to the crime scene.
Right. I mean, I'm like, dude, a
PhD
student in criminology is going to order the murder weapon on Amazon. I mean, seriously. I mean, come on. That's just ridiculous.
Well, on the topic of DNA as well, I mean, you have people even in the chat talking about it. Like, how is there nothing under anybody's fingernails if they fought back? I mean, they said that Xana fought back, right? So how does she not have any DNA under her fingernails? She scratched anybody or, something.
A hair,
right? Maybe pull on his hair or touch his bushy eyebrows. I don't know.
Right. And I'll tell you what, guys, having been around some of the biggest criminals that I've been around, like I was telling people, I was with the Baseline Killer, housed with him when he got caught in Arizona. I've been with some of these bigger crime cases, and it's really interesting the types of things that they find at the crime scenes that tie back to these people. And it is just like you said, it's a strand of hair. It's in a knife fight like this, guys, and look, I'm not like the grandest of knife fighters, but I've unfortunately had to be in a position to have to defend myself or utilize a shiv or a shank or whatever you got to do. You hit yourself numerous times in a fight. I don't even care if you're just fist fighting.
Right.
You hit your arm on a wall. You hit your arm on where I was, on a bunk or whatever's happening, because you're in a confined space, which they've explained. Maddie's room is one of the most confined spaces. Yeah. Just listen to Christy when she says, you can't even get out of that room if you wanted to.
Right.
And you're telling me somebody could go in there and get two people. One of them, fought. Kaylee fought, because just describe now if that is real and true, the leaked information of the way she's sitting against the wall, I'm telling me, you can't stab me, beat me, or do anything to where my back is against the wall without me trying to fight you.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to fight you, whether
think
it's
about
trying
this.
to knock your hands, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, now that you just said that, I was just thinking, was he leaning over the bed? Like, he would have had to kind of be leaning over the bed.
Right.
You would
Or
have
on the bed or on the bed.
Attacking them or on the bed. Yeah. That would be an awkward. Yeah. That would be awkward.
But
I'm just
think about-
curious, where was the force shield at that separated the knife sheath from everything else on the bed? There's like, isn't there like a magic in Moscow, some sort of magic force field that would have gone over the sheath? I mean, are you kidding me? We're describing this scene, okay, is an extremely gory one. There you go, AR. An extremely gory one. And they're going to say that there's no DNA on that sheath, but a couple of skin cells on a button. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well,
sorry.
I mean, think about it too, though. I mean, did he never almost lose a glove? Did his shirt never come pulled away? It doesn't matter what type of clothing you're wearing. I'm just thinking about the little endeavors that I've been into. The grabbing, the pulling, the pushing.
His mask. What about his mask?
Yeah.
How did he get out of there with his mask on?
Right.
How
and
did
he didn't have enough of a
hold
mask on to cover his eyebrows?
No.
So you're telling me in that entire home, the only bit of evidence Brian Koberger left in that entire home was pre-DNA touch on the sheath that most likely happened before he ever got in the home. That's pre-crime evidence. He didn't leave any during the crime? None?
A footprint. He had to have left footprints. There's no way that he walked out of there with clean shoes. There's just no way.
There's no way. Lucky, do you think in that entire endeavor, and Pete, I'll ask you the same question, and I'm going to shut my mouth after I ask the question. I want both of you to give me your opinion. Do you think he ever slipped and fell during any part of this to the floor himself? Think about a violent attack. 4 people with a single knife, like they're portraying. All that blood. It's got to be on your shoes. It has to be.
For sure.
You didn't slip once. You didn't slip coming down the stairs in a hurry.
Especially if you weren't putting your hands down. He had to have put his hands down when he was, going up and down those stairs.
Yeah.
At least once. He had to at least grab a rail or brace himself on a wall or something like that. And his hands would have definitely been covered in blood.
Pete, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he would have been covered in it. I can't imagine that, if this would have happened, if this happened the way they're claiming, it would have looked like one bloody mess from that 3rd floor room all the way to that 2nd floor, probably in the living room, where I think some of that altercation went down. So that would have looked like a bloodbath in there. So I don't know how you wouldn't, like you said, slip and fall in it. Like Lucky mentioned, footprints, fingerprints. I mean, more DNA. I mean, it's just so absolutely unbelievable that it just boggles the mind. And I think that's why we've got so many people here in this chat that are just fired up. I'm reading some of these comments as they fly by. I mean, it's just awesome, but people are engaged in this. I mean, just when you think you've heard it all.
One last question. This is a serious question for both of you. With the mess that house had to be, and with the press conferences making everybody believe that everybody was asleep in their beds when the crime happened, because people still believe this. Maddie and Kaylee were in the upstairs bedroom. Xana and Ethan were in the 2nd floor bedroom. Why were they tearing apart the kitchen so much, looking at all the cupboards and doing all the forensics in that kitchen as much as they were doing? What would be in that kitchen if everybody was asleep in their bedrooms?
It's a good question. That's
Yeah.
a very good question, man. I've had people in the comments bring up the kitchen before. There's also a picture I've seen where it looks like blood coming down the cabinets. That was weird.
Think about it. Like, we understand why it would be in the walking area between the stairs into Xana and Ethan's room through that middle living room. And I could understand through the floor pathway back out the back slider if that's really the way the person left the home. Mm-hmm. I could see everything on the floor being investigated. I get it. I understand. I don't know why you would have to be tearing apart the cupboards and all the way up into the roofing area of that kitchen if you don't have blood splatter.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking, AR, is what if that's where that's where they cleaned up, because you got a sink in the kitchen. So you could disrobe. You could disrobe in the kitchen, bag up your stuff, clean up the best you could yourself. You wash your hands. Maybe I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. And that splatter of washing up when you're doused in blood, maybe there was blood spatter on the cabinet.
Right. So that would be a part of the crime scene. Obviously, they would have to investigate that. Why weren't they more methodical in looking in the outside trash can and the whole pathway with it? That's a question. They seemed very just like, I don't care. I'm going to put the bar stools in the back slider door. This is no longer important to us. And it's just like the black jacket out at the fire hydrant that they pick up, pull some out of the pocket, look at, throw back on the ground. This is the poorest level of actually visually being able to see someone investigate something from afar. We all see it from afar. But you see enough of it to say, what a bunch of clowns.
Yeah, they wrapped the house in caution tape.
Yeah.
You wouldn't establish a perimeter like 15, 20 feet out or the whole property, for God's sakes.
Maybe they were looking for something. Maybe they were looking for something in the kitchen. Maybe they had been tipped off that something was hidden in the kitchen, or maybe that's why they were looking for something.
But they didn't care about other evidence to look at that, to make sure there was nothing in the outside trash. Or, that would have been the easiest way in Moscow, Idaho. In this case, to get rid of the murder weapon, leave it in the pizza box outside by the trash.
Right.
They would have never looked there, right? That's not important to look at.
Oh, no, nothing to see here. No,
I'm telling you, some of the cases just me breaking and entering into the houses and moving stuff around, not even taking of life or endangering people. They had that thing completely blocked off, and they went in with a fine-tooth comb and looked at everything.
Right.
Because they need every piece of evidence when this goes to trial. This is a quadruple homicide case that's got years upon years worth of appeals ahead of it if he's found guilty. If he's found guilty, this is going to Supreme Court for the next 20 years of appeals. And you're telling me you don't need every bit of tying together evidence? You don't need...
They don't seem worried about it.
They don't. They don't seem...
Yeah. There's a question for Pete here from True Crime Cult. Do we know if the WSU security guards out looking for the white launcher could have taken his touch DNA from his door handle?
Yeah, that's a good question, Robert. I did a video on the Pullman PD because I honestly think that is a very strong possibility of how Brian Koberger became the patsy. I think that I know that he went for a job interview in the summer before this happened when he moved out there. And the person that interviewed him was the chief of police there at Pullman. And then, right after that interview, he left that job as chief and went to the WSU campus chief of police. So that's curious, but I wonder what came up in that interview, because we know that Brian had a background in cloud-based forensics. So in my opinion, if I'm hearing that this guy's got all this knowledge and all these ideas about how to do cloud-based forensics, and I know I got a bunch of shenanigans going on under this roof, I might not want that guy within, 1,000 miles of me,
Right.
So that's what makes me wonder. And then maybe it came out in the interview that he liked to drive at night and, lived alone and this kind of thing. And he almost set himself up. And then, I could see that maybe somebody would, potentially, as Robert suggested, get DNA off his door, off his apartment door, if it's not brass, of course, a doorknob. But get his DNA from that, and then could have set him up that way. I think it's very possible. I mean, I don't like to, I know I've talked about that with you guys before. I don't like to accuse law enforcement of doing something nefarious like this, but there's just so much shenanigans going on here that I can't help but raise the question. So, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what you guys think about that.
Do we know if has it been confirmed or not, whether he got hired or not? Do we know?
No, he didn't get the job. And then he applied at Moscow, October, a month before this happened. He applied at Moscow and he didn't get the job there either. But it was some sort of PhD related position. And both of them, I just found it odd. So now you got him going to Moscow. And we know Pullman and Moscow talk. So you got to wonder if they're like, man, did you see that guy that, blah, blah, blah. And, something happens and it's like, boy, that's a guy we could put this on. I don't know. I know it's out there. But
I've heard both. I've heard both sides. I've heard that he didn't get the job. Maybe he got the job.
What's really out there, and I know you guys think about this too, nobody has stepped up and told any stories about Brian Koberger. No. They haven't stated why they felt as though he wouldn't get a job. Like many of us have discussed, he didn't get the job at WSU or at Moscow, and here's all the reasons that we factor in our mind. But the people that are legitimately right around there that would have more knowledge than any of us, because they're right there, are not speaking. Nobody. They're not gag ordered. I'm tired of hearing everybody throwing out the gag order. Ladies and gentlemen, not everybody is gag ordered.
Right.
It's directly the people involved with the case, law enforcement, the representatives of the lawyers, and not even the families are gag ordered. I mean, look at Steve and Christy. They talk every 4 minutes on national TV. They're not under a gag order. Their lawyer is. They're not.
Scott Green wrote a book about it.
Students at WSU that would have known. Right. Who in the hell that's all around? People know Brian Koberger. People know him. They went to class with him. They saw him on campus. Yeah. Why is it so quiet? And why doesn't somebody just come out and say, look, he applied and we didn't hire him because we were afraid of X, and Y. We saw this trend happening and he was kind of coming unglued because everybody uses that. Well, he was coming unglued. He was losing his TA position. He was grading papers too hard. Okay, show me where he was losing his scruples enough that he would go commit a quadruple homicide. Now, we're finding out girls he did not stalk, a house he was not stalking, he was not mingling with them on social media, and Taylor stated it very clearly, no connection to the victims. So he defused himself so much in front of all these people, they could go take 4 innocent lives that he didn't even know, and nobody saw it coming. Nobody can drop a word as to why. I don't believe that.
Do any of you think that there will be a change of venue?
Oh yeah, there has to be.
Yes.
If this doesn't get a change of venue, we know this is a bogus ordeal.
Right. I think
if this gets tried and locked out. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think the survey proved that, you know, the town is, or the county's biased against them. I mean, the whole damn town either went to the university, works at the university, or both. So I mean, everybody's got a vested interest. And even if you find a few handfuls that don't, they're working for a business that relies on that university to exist.
Right.
So the entire area is in the tank for the university, and they want this over with and off their damn plate. They're probably tired of weird YouTubers driving around their town taking selfies and video.
Yeah.
But what about the students? You know, the students, they post all the time to social networks. That's what surprises me, is that it's not a student who is, you know, putting information out there on social networks. That's what I thought we would be seeing, is we would be seeing students who know information or have heard information posting that on their social networks.
Even more so than that, the students that showed up at the crime scene, whether before the law enforcement did or after. I mean, you saw the pictures when law enforcement was already there, with all the kids sitting around huddled like they were just devastated. None of them have even come out to tell the story of the devastation that they felt, the nervousness, the scare. I mean, you look at the school shootings when a kid goes in, and unfortunately the high schools get bombarded by gunfire, and all the families are showing up, and the crying, and the newscasters, and everybody's talking.
Well, and I think that's why this case is so mesmerizing for many people, is we don't have the normal information that we do when a case like this happens. Normally, you know, like Lucky said, the students are saying everything, the parents are saying as much as they can, everybody in the town is saying what they heard, and this is what happened. And so it's so hush hush compared to what most cases are.
Yeah, Moscow's silent. Silent. And name one newscaster that interviewed an Idaho University student at the actual crime scene while they were investigating the crime scene, doing an interview. I mean, it's everywhere. No matter what crime you're at, they're interviewing people. Not there. Not there.
Yeah. That's why I'm telling you, man, there's some weirdness going on here. I feel like this is like a play, that this is almost not even real. It's bizarre. It really is.
Show me the funeral. Show me a funeral of one of the 4 kids. Nobody wanted a funeral. We saw the memorial with the college kids getting up there talking about who owes who $20 for beer. But where's the actual funerals from the families that say we want to lay our loved one to rest? No, they went and got him cremated within 22 minutes and set him up on the mantle, and now we're just doing national TV broadcasts. And I hate to sound harsh, like that sounds
it's
so mean.
You're right on, though. You're right on. I mean, everybody wants to tap dance around the victims. I mean, I'm not trying to drag anybody through the mud, but these are normal human beings. You know, like we all have vices and things we've done. I'm not trying to put them in some sort of, you know, paint them in a corner like that they're horrible, but they were probably doing some things that were not good, which is what put them in the situation that I think that they were in. You know, I mean, we got to just be real about it. And likewise, you know, like any of these other characters in this whole saga, I mean, it's ridiculous, but the families just acted bizarre. You got Ethan's mom goes to CrimeCon to sell a book. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, who would do that? Like, I couldn't even.
If Jen passes, even just of natural causes, she passes, you're not going to see me for over a year. I'm going to be devastated. I'm not talking to nobody. I'm not hanging out with nobody. You're not putting me on national TV for any reason. I have nothing I want to say, especially if her life was taken in a manner like this. I get we all grieve in our own way. I get that.
Right.
And if somebody took my wife's life, I would be the angriest person you would ever see. I'm hunting somebody down, but I'm doing it quietly. I'm not doing it on national TV. I'm not giving you an interview. I don't give a damn about your camera. I don't care about what you want to put out to national TV. I got stuff I got to find out about what happened to my loved one. And that's all I care about. Leave me the hell alone. To go on national TV or to go to CrimeCon and sell a book and to even state, well, I'm not going to go to the trial. Hell, if I'm not, I'll be at that trial. Whether I want to be or not, I'll be there.
Right. Guy wants to know where were the body bags or stretchers or an ambulance, not the ambulance that was there to respond to unconscious person?
That's a good question. I mean, they're pretty much asking, how do you feel as though the bodies were moved from the crime scene without anybody actually seeing? Because we always see the cameras and the pictures of bodies coming out in the black bags and on the stretchers. And in this one, they don't even know when they've been removed.
I had somebody in the comments today because of the video I posted that said that the bodies were taken out, they said, through the slider, and that the news cameras, out of respect for the families, didn't film anything. But I'm not buying that for a damn second.
I don't believe that at all.
That's absurd. But that's what they were saying, and I'm like, I'm not believing that there wasn't somebody out there rolling some video. I mean, come on.
I've had somebody else tell me that they curtained off a full mile all the way around the area, did it in the middle of the night, brought ambulances in, loaded them in, and took them out via ambulance with the roads blocked. But I'm telling you, you would still have mainstream media everywhere filming and taking pictures, and they would catch at least the ambulance leaving the area because they're there 24/7. They're there with cameras to catch anything. There's no way they took those bodies out of that house without somebody snapping a picture.
Yeah. I don't know how it is either, but I mean, that's why, like I said, I mean, this theory that was posed to me, I mean,
what, out of respect, we're not going to do our job? Out of respect, as mainstream media, we're not going to get that shot that nets us $500,000? Come on, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Question from T. She says, silly question. Do you think Ann Taylor has watched YouTube videos, podcasters who talk about the Idaho 4 or no?
Probably Unfiltered Lucky. I'm sure she's watched Lucky.
She actually has the 666 seconds logo on her back. It's a whole back piece. Yeah. She's all about it.
She probably got that tattoo. Yeah. And she just,
I wouldn't doubt that she watches it or has somebody watch stuff, you know.
She's yelling and screaming, why is my client in jail when that convict over there on YouTube just keeps running his mouth? Let's go arrest his ass.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, though. I do think they have maybe interns watching the YouTube channel, somebody watching them to get a feel for what's happening would be my guess. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I know that attorneys were watching my Rust videos, so
that's right.
I would assume that maybe, you know, they probably might watch some content.
I would say they have to because they put in a lot of motions to close out mainstream media and a lot of things, even using social media platforms as their reasoning to why. So, I mean, and you guys got to think too, with all the content creators that were sending emails to them at the beginning, and you know, we all think that we've solved the case. We got to get our info to them as quick as we can. And they've watched some of it, and that's going to be a part of their, you know, their fight that they can't get a fair trial because there's just so much talk about this. Because I mean, look, even my little itty bitty channel still gets enough views to, you know, to rock a few boats, piss a few people off. So, I mean,
there's definitely people watching because I feel like you know, I've done videos and then I've gotten emails from anonymous people and stuff like that talking about, you know, asking me if I wouldn't talk about certain things or if I wouldn't post certain pictures or stuff like that. So I imagine that they're watching.
Yeah. I get some of those as well. And I try to be as respectful as I possibly can. When I do my content, the way I speak and the way that I display my thumbnails, I try to be as respectful as I possibly can, but I still get the conversations behind the scenes in regards to people that don't like a few things I've touched base on, ask me not to go there, or even ask me if I'm willing to sit down and have a full-out discussion with them personally, to get the truth of the story into my brain. They say to give me the truth so that I better understand what I'm talking about. And these are people that are pretty close to everything going on in the cases that I talk about. So right. I try to be respectful, and I turn down every opportunity. I don't want to talk with people close. I don't want to talk to the families. I get their pain, and I get it, and I don't want to get into a debate back and forth with them or a conversation, because I am a little rougher around the edges, and I'll call someone's bullshit when they say something to me. Even if I try to do it in a respectful way, I'm not always going to agree with your philosophy or the way you're talking, and I'll tell you that. So it's best if I avoid it.
Yeah.
Debbie says, hey guys and Jennifer, in all the last 40 or more years, have you ever seen a case where they never show any real evidence of the crime? Anything?
It's the worst gag order I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. We just recorded episode 259 of the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast. I've done Murder Metal Mayhem for 6 years, and every week we do a different case, and I've never seen one that even comes remotely close to this when it comes to nothing getting out, no evidence, no 911 call, no police interrogation video, no body cam of an arrest, like none of it.
No neighbors talking, nobody talking in this area.
Right.
It's strange.
It's weird.
To add to kind of your experience, Pete, is I've been locked up for so long to where everybody coming into where I was being housed, I had to read their paperwork, or the people, that were running the yards had to read the paperwork. So we had to see your discovery. We had to see your PCA with what your charges were, and then exactly what you were deemed to have done within your crime, because this is how we know who's on the yard, to make sure we don't have certain people in there with us. So when you go through reading a PCA and a discovery, you learn so much of what's being said before they actually even go to trial. So you get to learn what evidence built up to them even being arrested. And I've never seen anything that compares anything to the Idaho. Nothing. And I even got to say, to the Delphi case, and I don't know a heck of a lot about Delphi. I know a lot of people want me to talk about it. That one's odd as hell too. So
it is. But at least Delphi, you got a little bit like the video of the guy coming across the bridge, a little bit of the audio. But yeah, I mean, it's Delphi is almost on another level, if you can believe that, because of the fact that some of the people close to the crime investigating it ended up, deceased. So pretty brutal. And one was an intentional fire, and the other was shot outside of an FBI office. And an FBI office, somebody gunned this investigator down. So Delphi is definitely whacked, but yeah, I mean, it's so crazy how this one is buttoned up like this. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, even the defense attorney, Ann Taylor's looking right at Bill Thompson in a heated back and forth to say, hey, make sure that you protect that document right there, because it has something in it that needs to be redacted. So she's even protecting the prosecution from releasing information. And then the prosecution's looking over protecting the defense from, it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys should literally be yelling. In all of my experiences in a courtroom, when you're fighting over evidence, you're fighting. You're yelling back and forth, and the judge is trying to tame everything down. And we saw a little bit of that. But then they're helping each other. No, make sure you redact that statement before you even, don't say that. Wait, let him say it. Let it fall out of his mouth, because now that gets striked in the courtroom. He gets disciplined, and that part of the evidence could be thrown out.
Right.
But you're protecting that. I don't get it. I've been through I've been through it too much. Like, I would have been screaming as a defendant. Why did you even speak up? Why did you let him make that mistake? Let him make that mistake.
Right.
But they don't.
Question from Julia. Was Hoodie Jack told to make sure they got home okay for a specific reason? Did they always do that, or did he have a reason to protect them that night?
Good question. Jack Showalter. Why was he walking the girls? Who asked him to do it? And was that a regular thing, or was that just that night? And then why didn't he actually escort them all the way home?
Yeah, I just did a video on two videos on Jake Schreiger, Maddie's boyfriend, who was out of town, who I've been told was the one that asked Jack, because they were buddies, to keep an eye on them that night because they were going to be out drinking, is what I was told, or, what I've heard, but I don't know that that's a fact, but that's what I'd heard. And it does seem a little strange. I mean, of all the people you'd have looking after your girlfriend, I'm thinking that dude would be like one of the last people that I would ask to keep an eye on my girlfriend that night. I don't know. I mean, that guy was just, with the whole stories of the dead, deceased coyotes on people's porches and all that kind of stuff with that dude. I think there was something wrong with that guy. But nonetheless, that's what I had heard.
Well, and I wonder if he started out with them, if he left from the house and went downtown with them, or if he met them at the corner club. Was he at the house earlier that evening and left to go downtown with them, or did he meet up with them at the corner club and start following them from there?
That would be my guess, because I heard he got thrown out of the corner club for being creepy on some woman there. So I guess he got thrown out and then waited outside for him. And then when they left, he walked them to the grub truck, and then we know they ditched him, from there. And then he kind of scoots off. He's definitely moving with a purpose, but apparently he needed to get to that hunting cabin 5 hours away so bad he just couldn't wait. He ran to his car to get there. I mean,
here's a great question to kind of tie into Pete what you heard about Maddie's boyfriend asking Jackass to watch over the girls. But you got to really wonder, how would Maddie's boyfriend even know Kaylee was supposedly going to be in town when Kaylee made a last minute decision to be in town, because she didn't even really fully know whether she was going to come in town or not. She just made a last minute decision to come show Maddie her car. So how would that have been pre-planned? Because I don't think Maddie's boyfriend would have known. There's something really odd about that whole scenario. He was only 90 minutes away. His alibi was he was in Coeur d'Alene, which is only 90 minutes away. So, well, I mean, you could also say the boyfriend just had a very strict, I know these two girls have issues with somebody. So anytime these two are together and go out, I want you, or it could even be possibly you, to go with them. It doesn't just have to be the one person. It could be Hunter Johnson could be one of them, or whoever else is around at the time has to escort those girls. But I think we would have heard something about that type of scenario. I would think something would have leaked out that said, hey, Maddie really was the target. That's why she was being protected. That would make the whole Jackass weirdness of following them around that night, not even standing with them, standing way away from them. Look, I'm not escorting girls if I'm not hanging out with you, having a beer and interacting. I'm not going to escort you from afar.
Right.
But he did. He was cool with it.
Yeah, he stayed out of the way. He just kind of stood in the background. That was strange.
And then when they did him, he's just like, okay, well, I guess I've had one beer too many. I'll just drive to the cabin 5 hours away.
Right.
And I just
and he might have been a little embarrassed too, because that the veto guy, he let him know, hey, your girls are taking off. So maybe he might have been a little embarrassed at that point as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Just for everybody that's commenting in chat, I do see questions going. Please put questions in front so I know that they're going, but I can't always interject while the gentlemen are talking. So I know you guys got questions. I am trying to interject here and there to ask those questions for you guys, just because someone keeps asking the same question.
Jen will tell you I talk too damn much.
So there is a question. Ask AR what he thinks of the latest video made by Lucky. Would Ellie go that far to make him an informant and drag it out this long? P.S. I'm going to keep grinding you till you answer.
Lucky, I always get really engaged within your videos. Both of you gentlemen do a great presentation, and that I highly respect the way that you do it. And that's a very difficult one to answer, because when it comes to informants, or the way that law enforcement handles them or utilizes them, is very secretive and very private and done differently just about each and every time. There's no set way that it happens. Have I seen them sit in a jail cell? Of course. Informants, law enforcement, undercover officers, they've all been on the block with me, and they're not hard typically to point out. Like, you kind of get the gist of it when you've been around it enough. You know what you're looking at. When it comes to Brian Koberger, they've just put a lot of personal information out there that, if he is, it puts a lot of other people at risk. His family, his sisters, but they've all disappeared as well. They're no longer to be seen. And that's typically what happens in the world of law enforcement and informants, is they were never really real family or to begin with. So the question is always great. It's always something to think about. And I know a lot of people look at me and say, hey, you've been on the yard so much. You've been on the blocks. You would know. You don't always know, because the way that they do it is always different. And Idaho might just have a very far different way of doing things than what New Mexico or Arizona or California do. It's hard. He does have law enforcement background. He does want to work law enforcement from what they say.
Right.
It just, to me, doesn't feel like it. Like, I don't feel informant, maybe he told on something. Maybe that's why Kopaka's situation ended the way it did, is Kopaka freaked out because he felt like Brian Koberger gave up Kopaka in a situation for this case. Could be, could not be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Kopaka is a complex situation there with him.
And I'm going to firmly state, I believe the Kopaka situation is 100% tied to the Idaho. I truly do. Whether they were connected or not, I don't know. But I feel like the investigation had Brent Kopaka as part of the investigation. And maybe his PTSD and his mental health caused him to flip out. And that's the way it ended the way it did. Not because he was actually the criminal. I don't know.
Right.
But he's tied somehow, because all the players are tied somehow. Even the investigating officers are tied together to all of them. So too much oddity.
Yeah.
But no, I don't feel law enforcement maybe informative. Maybe informative.
Yeah, I did a true crime deep cuts about about Kopaka, and had interviewed a soldier that retired and has PTSD, and he talked about it in snap type rage incidents that he had endured. And so yeah, I mean, I could completely see it. It's very sad, tremendously sad, and that these guys go through this. I'm thankful I didn't go into combat. I was stateside. I never went. Was in during Desert Storm, but the war was winding down while I was in training, so I didn't have to go over there. So I was supposed to go to Kuwait, but then they kept us stateside, so I never had to do that. But the guys that have, I mean, that's some tough stuff.
Jen will tell you, I can snap in a heartbeat from the PTSD of being on the yard and seeing everything and having everything happen, the lock in the socks and everything that happens. You got to learn how to snap quick. Get PTSD coming out of the penitentiary might be different than the military, and it's different in many but it's the very same thing at the end of the day. You're mentally kind of tilted a little bit, and one little thing can throw a loop in your everyday life, let me tell you.
Right. Hey, can I thank a couple of people? I saw that I didn't want to wait to the end in case we didn't have time. Is that all right?
Go for
Go
it.
ahead.
No, I just had a couple of people. Had a new member, Sabrina Vandiver Nicholson. So thank you for doing that, being a member of the Horns High Club. And then Planarian, $20 super sticker. I appreciate that. And then Ronald Dominique, another new member. Chief, super sticker. Thank you. And then Juliet, $5 super sticker. So thank you. I just didn't want to forget or not be able to do it at the end. So thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
What an amazing crowd. And Lucky, do you have memberships and everything on your channel as well? I never really asked you.
I keep everything just real basic. I mean, eventually I'll definitely kind of work into that, but right now I'm just really happy just making my videos. So eventually, it'll come. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and Lucky, that's one thing I respect about both of you is, we're not doing this to become rich. We're never going to become millionaires doing this. We're not going to drive the fancy cars because of the YouTube content creation that we do. We do this because we actually care. And, I know for a fact the reason why I do it is I want to open eyes to the different sides of views of the justice system, the way it kind of works. I want to be able to answer some people's questions, but I also want to let people know, you could have lived the worst of criminal lives and made the worst of decisions possible in life. And at any moment, you can make the decision to go a different direction. And definitely you can get lucky and meet a young lady like I did that changes your life and loves you for who you are and sees the better side of you than even you do. And I think that's one reason why we've all become friends, is I see that very value in all of you. We're basic. We're normal human beings. We can hold a good conversation without putting each other down or being negative. We don't want to put each other down. We don't want to put anybody else down for any other reason. So I appreciate the both of you. You actually, both of you push me to be a little bit better every day at what I do. And that's why I had to go even more part-time, is because I wasn't fulfilling. No, I just want you guys to know, I do appreciate both of you. I love your work ethic. I love the work that you put into it, the values that you carry yourself with. It makes somebody like myself feel better about the transition from what I was to what I'm trying to be. And it's people like you that give me that guidance to help me be able to do that.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, dude.
Absolutely. Do we know what kind of space Brian is being held? Is he in solitary? Is he safe? Do you guys know?
No, he's got to be in some kind of protective custody.
Yeah, he's definitely,
He's not protective custody.
He's not in Gen Pop, I'm sure.
No, he's
He's not playing dominoes with
downstairs.
everybody.
There's 4 cells. There's 4 cells. He's downstairs in the jail in segregation, single man cells. There's 4 cells. They typically only house 2 people down there at a time.
Oh, wow.
The very ends of the. I've been in that jail before. Did you guys know that?
No.
Did I ever tell you that? I've been
Did it
in
say
Lake
AR
County jail.
AR was here on one of the walls or something?
I was trying to go to WSU to college, and I got hemmed up in Moscow. So everybody from Pullman goes to drink in Moscow. And we got hemmed up over there, and I had to go into Lake County. And because of my background, I had to go downstairs in the part of the jail where he literally is. There's a TV outside of the cells on the wall. There's a guard station. There's your pay phone where you dial the phone, collect. You get to come out of your cell for 1 hour a day. It's 23 and 1. They only can house 2 inmates at a time down there. So all this stuff where that kid did that interview with Banfield, he's like, yeah, I was with Brian Colbert. No, you weren't, dude. You would have never been down there with him. You don't get to go down with the quadruple homicide guy unless you've had 20 or 30 years worth of time under your belt in violent crimes. You know, you're not going to.
Right.
But it's quiet, and then there's a couple of steps that go up, and you go out to the, it's a cube rec yard. It's literally 12 by 12 cement walls. They go up about 15 feet with a hole in the top for sun. And then just to the right of that, you go up the stairs to the courthouse. So he never sees any of the other inmates. He doesn't go to the chow hall. He doesn't do any of that other stuff. He's right there confined. It's very confining, and it's segregation. I'm sure they could hold PC there too if they wanted to, but he's not deemed protective custody. He's just segregated. If that makes sense to anybody.
That makes sense.
It does.
I can only say that because I've been right there in those cells, so that's the only reason why.
That's wild. How big would the cell be that you think?
6 by 8, 6 feet by 8 feet. And the funny thing about the cells that they have in there is they literally have a slant to the roof of the cell. So they built them to the way you can't even literally stand straight up in your cell and be comfortable, because the only place where it's tall enough for you to stand up straight would be if you were standing on your bunk. And then you still can't stand up straight because you'd be on your bunk hitting your head on the roof. Your toilet's kind of right there by the doorway. And then, when I was in there, they didn't have tablets. They didn't have all that stuff. So I don't know anything about that stuff. When people ask me about the tablet usage, never in any of my time, anywhere that I did, was I allowed to have a tablet. We had postcards for mail. You couldn't get stamps and all of that because that's all money. The stamps are money in prison. Yeah, it's all. That's a different world up there now with the tablets and the different way that they can interact. I never had that. But the cells you can't do push-ups in your cell. You can't get down on the floor and do push-ups. You have to come out the day room. So it's very small. Very, very small.
Interesting.
Question about the ambulance. Can the medics or hospitals verify if anyone was transported? Chris wants to know.
Lucky should answer this one. I just watched his video this morning about the ambulance question.
You just did the video, though.
That was a good video, dude.
Thank you. Well, for a long time, I had always heard that there was never an ambulance on scene. And a lot of people, when we talked about somebody possibly going to the hospital that morning, everybody in the comments was like, but there wasn't never an ambulance there. There was never an ambulance there. So I just wanted to confirm that there was an ambulance there. But I'm sure that it could be confirmed. I'm sure that, I don't know that we could confirm it, but I'm sure they have record of anyone who's been admitted or anybody who had been brought in by an ambulance. I just don't think we're getting a lot of that information. I'm sure that there's record of that, but I don't think that we would be privy to that information.
Do you feel those records are allowed to be shared? Because I know in some of the cases I've been around, they can state medical services were requested, but they could never state as to why and for who.
It's HIPAA.
HIPAA
Yeah,
laws.
your
Yeah.
HIPAA laws are definitely going to cover that. But I mean, I'm sure they would have record of anyone who was admitted into the hospital.
Can they display that though? Can they say, hey, on
Not without getting sued.
November
I don't
13th,
think,
I don't think they can.
no.
you know,
No.
an individual?
I mean, you're not even
was
allowed to.
admitted-
You're not even allowed to ask somebody if their dog is a service dog without, So I mean, HIPAA covers a whole. It kind of blankets everything that has to do with medical.
That's what I thought too. But I still feel I agree with you though that somebody would be able to state that medical services ambulance was dispatched at 3:12 a.m. in Moscow to.
Well, we
Whatever.
know there was an ambulance dispatched. The fire chief, he confirmed that, but we don't know what time. He immediately, but immediately could be enough time for law enforcement to have gotten there and basically assess the whole situation. That's how long it took for that ambulance to get to the King Roadhouse.
Wow.
It's a volunteer fire department. It's not. I mean,
Right.
it's a volunteer fire department.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys feel as though medical attention personnel were in the home at any point before it was deemed it was a quadruple homicide? I mean, were they held back or were they allowed in to assess that everybody was actually deceased?
Well,
No.
I mean, Brian Nickerson is the Moscow fire chief, and he stated that none of his staff entered that crime scene at any time, that not
Right.
one of them went inside.
They turned them away.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So
So,
they would
nobody
have
went in there
already-
but the Moscow PD.
So, I mean, was it, I guess in my mind, I'm trying to just really put it together. Must have either been so devastating of a crime scene, you just knew nobody survived. But then that would make my head spin seeing the two young lady survivors outside the home that were potentially supposed to be in the home. So I'm wondering, you two don't have a scratch on you. Should I go check them to make sure there are no signs of life? Or are we just going to call it good and over with and begin the forensics? I mean.
I think the overwhelming smell would have definitely been they would have known that if there's nobody coming out of that house and that smell is there, they know what that means, that there's some corpses inside,
Well, I can say some corpses inside, but what if one of them was not
sure
passed on yet? You know what I mean? Could you imagine in your mind if you were a medical worker and you're being held back at the door, and then you later find out that one of the victims' time of death literally was later than everybody else's, and it actually coincides with you were already on scene, just not being allowed in the door, and then the time of death occurs. I wouldn't be able to even fathom. I mean, the lawsuits for one that would stem from that, but just the personal inside me thinking I didn't fight hard enough to get in there to make sure there was nobody's life I could save.
Right.
Or any of these, there could have been anyone anywhere near this crime scene that might have needed medical attention. I mean, what if somebody ran from the house and they weren't inside the house and they needed medical attention and you've sent the ambulance away? It just seems weird not to have medical on standby while you're doing this, because you don't know what you're going to come across inside that crime scene. So you don't know if maybe somebody ran from the house, maybe they've been stabbed and they ran from the house and they're waiting for, law enforcement, or they're waiting for something to happen. There's a lot that could have been happening around this house. So that's why I was kind of shocked that they, the fire chief basically said that they were only there for a really short time before, they were informed that they weren't needed.
very odd.
Right.
Almost like the
That's
police
just
knew
blows
what
my
was going
mind.
on before they got there. Isn't that
Right, which is
curious?
strange because
Isn't
I was
that
like, how long
curious?
did it take that ambulance to get there? That doesn't make
That
sense to me.
blows
I
The
mean,
law enforcement would have had to be there for a minute.
yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
if you were to believe
That
that
just
law
blows
enforcement had any play in this, that would be an obvious reason why they just told the ambulance guys when they got there, we don't need you on this one, because they knew that they'd been in there for 8 hours already. Right? I mean, it
Well,
makes you wonder, you know, because
Right.
they were they going around and checking for pulses and stuff? You know, I don't know.
Well, and think about this, law
That's
enforcement
kind of
got
like
there at noon. So Moscow PD gets there at noon, but the vandal alert for shelter in place doesn't come out till after 3 p.m.
Right.
yeah.
So that seems strange, that to do that 3 hours later, like why wouldn't they release that right away? It wouldn't
Right.
take long to realize that you have
Right.
four deceased students in this house.
Well,
It seems weird.
wouldn't medical personnel want to at least do some sort of evaluation on Bethany
Yes.
and Dylan, knowing that they were in the home when this crime happened? We need to bring them into the ambulance. We need to talk to them. We need to check. Even if it was just the case they had one too many to drink the night before, they popped a roofie, whatever possibly happened. They have to evaluate that. They have to document all of that. So it really concerns me when the personnel make the clear statement, one, we were never allowed into the home. But that also makes me have a feeling they didn't check on anybody outside of it, like you said, either. So who didn't check on Dylan and Bethany, who were supposedly in the home when all of this happened?
Or Hunter.
He
was supposedly Hunter's the one who found Ethan and Xana. So it seems like they would want to check him out.
Who checked out the so-called person that the medical phone call was for, a passed out individual?
Right.
Who checked him out?
Yeah, you were talking about Hunter, and he's like the Jack Nicholson character in The Shining. Like he's always been there.
Always,
he's always there.
He is
the guy is. Oh, I wonder if he had if he was staying in that Ashland couch bedroom or something. I mean, seriously,
I just have this gut feeling. I hate to say it. I think he was there the night it happened. I
wouldn't doubt it.
Possible.
I think he was I don't know what the term would be, but I'm thinking of it almost like a liaison between the frat house and where this product was being sold and stored. And he was kind of keeping an eye on the prize, making sure everything was cool. Because when that cop showed up to talk to Kaylee, he came walking out and sat on that couch and just hung out. And
like
normally,
he was watching her,
making sure she didn't say something. And you would think any other college kid who was probably in that house smoking weed and God knows what else, the last thing he would want to do would be to come out and sit next to a cop.
No,
he would stay in the house.
Maybe he didn't trust that cop, and that's why he went out there with Kaylee.
Maybe.
Coming from the background I come from, we have what's called watchers. And these are people that literally keep their eyes on critical people that could give up information to a cop, making a mistake, making a bad comment. So we always had people in places to monitor the interaction between people and cops. And they would step in and shut it down anytime there was a possibility of a snitch or something that was about ready to transpire. They would give up something. They would step in and cause a scene to get the cops' attention away from the person they were talking to. Hunter gives me that vibe all the way across the board. And then I've been feeling Hunter's little girlfriend could have been possibly hanging out with Bethany downstairs. That's why at the initial press conferences, they were talking about the two girls sleeping in the downstairs bedroom. Well, we know it wasn't Dylan. So who was sleeping with Bethany in the downstairs bedroom?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it would probably be Hunter's little girlfriend that's always there too. that's answering the door.
Or it was Dylan, and they somehow needed her to move up to the second floor, to witness.
That's what I wondered.
The intruder,
Right.
So it seems strange that she started out on the ground floor, but it just seems very convenient that she ended up on the second floor and was able to see the intruder.
Yeah.
Right. And we didn't hear about that at first. So that was like
it was reported. It was reported that she was on the ground floor in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And asleep on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Everyone was sleeping. They were all just sleeping.
Yeah.
Patty Cakes wants to know, if Ellie was called to Kopaka's apartment by the roommates, why did Ellie keep announcing, Brent, come out, we have a search warrant? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they weren't, that's the thing. Like, they weren't there as a normal SWAT situation where you feel like there's a person with a weapon that's putting others in danger. They literally announced they had a search warrant, which to me throws, back to my theory that I feel like he's being looked at as a part of the crime. We're looking for a military grade weapon from a person that served in our military that could possibly have one. We have a search warrant to search your apartment. I'm probably foolish.
You know that it doesn't have a sheath. So,
right.
If he was, I don't know. That is strange that they were calling for a search warrant.
Well, they were supposedly there because he was threatening two people with a weapon.
How old was Brent Kopaka?
He was in his 30s.
A couple years older than Brian.
Brian Kopaka. I just try to always keep that in mind, because I just do not see these 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds hanging out with 30-year-olds. Like I said, I don't. It doesn't seem like a big age difference when you get my age, but when you're 20, 30 is old. So I don't. That's where I get hung up with those two.
Well, I could see in the age range, I could see Kopaka, I could see Koberger, and I could see Demetrius Robinson being in the age range that could all hang out. They're all in their 30-ish range.
Those three. Yeah, those three, I can see that. I just don't see them hanging out with the
away from that, now you're talking about just what we call the youngie and the goodies that are still in college, young, almost off limits young. And those girls aren't going to be interested in the 31. Well, I say that Emma Bailey's with Demetrius, and he's 38. So, I guess I'm foolish in that nature of thinking that. But
I feel like he controls her. That's more of a control situation. I think he controls Emma Bailey.
Yeah.
Well, and I believe that she has low self-esteem. So now he's got the mental control of her, and then he's also got the narcotic side of it by flashing a little bit of money and how he can take care of her if she does this. And look at the lifestyle she's living. She obviously has zero self-confidence. Zero.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Emma Bailey was somehow involved with a way of getting that DNA from Brian Koberger. In that, she did escort work. And I wonder if that's how she may have met Brian, through like a dating app or an escort type situation. And then when it comes to Brent Kopaka, I mean, if he was using, like the interview I heard with the couple that knew him very well and that he stayed at their house and played with their kids, talked about him very candidly, but said he had a huge meth issue. And if that's the case, then that would have been a very likely place that he could have met Emma and Demetrius. And so I could almost see the tie, not that they maybe that Brian and Brent actually knew each other, but that through Emma and Demetrius, somehow they were connected that way. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, it's a small town, so they could link up in a lot of different directions.
Right.
Well, I could also see the telling on each other in that grouping. And I look right at Demetrius and I go, dude, you're a snitch. Like, I see it. I know how you guys interact. I know all about your type action. Like, I've been around it too much. I get it. And then you're with this young girl that you're controlling. You're going to be the first one, and I don't want to use the word that I want to use, but you're going to snitch up, and you're going to give people up. And then look, Brent Kopacka could be tied into that mix, and they know he's a druggie, so we'll tell on him. And then, I mean, that mixture of the age range and the collective people kind of coincide. They go together. I mean, they just do.
Idaho is a rough place to be selling narcotics. You know, Idaho has some strict laws. So it seems like there's a lot of.
Well, many are finding out. Many are finding out about it right now.
Right.
There's a lot of busts. I mean, a
lot of busts.
And somehow Demetrius and Emma, and we were just talking about this, Pete, you have a very strict narcotic state that is strict in their sentencing guidelines, especially if they know you're distributing or trafficking. Right. I watched Emma on camera, just like all of you, pull it right out of her and throw it in the garbage can at the police station on camera. And that girl is walking free all over the place right now with no charges, no DUI, nothing that transpired in the other college kid in Washington. Demetrius is walking free. That guy has a criminal history just as long as mine.
Yeah, kidnapping, all sorts of stuff.
If I had police contact like that dude, even just police contact, boom, they hand me up and I'm gone until they figure out what they want to do with me. And him, we'll just release you. Go ahead and go. You know, move states if you would. We don't want to ever see you again. Just get out of the state. No, you're on probation and parole. We just want you gone. States don't do that. They don't just say, hey, you're on probation and parole. Get out of here. They say you got to go through the whole steps of getting it transferred and approved. And he just left.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. I'm sorry. It's weird to me. That means
I agree.
I took it up really well. And somebody destroyed that videotape of me pulling something out of my rear end at the police station and throwing it away in their garbage.
Right.
Well, and wasn't it Judge who was part of all that?
That I
believe it was Judge that was involved in all that.
Really?
In all those deals. I want to say that I either heard that or read that somewhere that Judge was a part of those deals.
That'd be very interesting. Now I feel like I got to deep dive that to see what other cases within the last handful of years Judge, because he is one of the main actual felony judges in the area. I think there's only one other, right, that sits in Moscow and Latah County. Is there one more? There might be two.
Yeah.
There might be two more.
Well, Ann Taylor's represented all these people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like now it's nuts. I mean, imagine Ann Taylor is now representing, the defendant, and she's also represented the victims' families also. So that's odd.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange.
There's a lot going on there. Just like the police chief's wife is the court reporter. And I mean, that.
Well, the coroner owns a private law practice. How is that not a conflict of interest? I mean, the coroner also has a private law practice. So that's odd.
And she graduated from the U of I. Go figure.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a nurse and then became a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah. She's well-rounded.
Amber has a question for Lucky. Have you seen an autopsy information? Did Ethan really have two autopsies? Is that confirmed?
I have never seen any autopsy information. And I did hear that Ethan's family did opt for a second autopsy, but that's never been confirmed that I'm aware of. I did hear that. I did hear that Ethan's family did have a second autopsy performed, but I haven't had any confirmation on that. Maybe you guys have.
No, I heard the same thing, that his family had a second one done, but I haven't heard anything like, I've never seen anything or anything solid other than through the grapevine.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering in the back of my head too, just thinking again about the gruesomeness of what supposedly this crime was. And, you know, people making the statement he was stabbed and killed while he was asleep. And why would you need a second autopsy? What in this style of a crime would lead you to believe that the original autopsy, because we do know some information from the original, because we know what officers were there. We don't know the entirety of what was deemed by the autopsy. We know what officers stood in, you know, whatever. But
I mean, I think we have some basic, you know, information, but a lot of the information in this case is rumor. You know, a lot of it is just rumor, you know. So that's the thing, is that, I mean, I don't think we'll ever see any autopsy information. I don't think we'll ever hear a 911 call. There's a lot of stuff that I don't think we're going to see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I hate to say, at the end of the day, all that leads to is reasonable doubt.
Right.
It's all any of that leads to is reasonable doubt.
The Chapin family is kind of different, though. You know, they handle things differently, and I always thought it was strange that they created that scholarship for the victims. It was the scholarship, the college scholarship in honor of the victims, and then their kids got it, right?
Yeah.
The son, Hunter, got it.
Yeah. In that little odd, you could have just paid for your kid's college, and another kid could have got the scholarship.
Well, that's what I thought the plan was in the beginning, is maybe another kid will have a chance to go to college, but it was their kid that ended up getting that.
Right.
Yeah, that does seem kind of strange.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Chapin family, the wife and the husband, are on the same page in regards to the way that they want to handle the loss of their son? I have this inner feeling that she's kind of the director and he wants to be more involved. I feel like he's passionately and emotional enough. He wants to be more involved, but he's following the wife's lead, and that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen much.
He said something in the very beginning that caught my attention immediately. And in one of the first interviews that he did, he said, you know, I urge law enforcement to tell the truth.
Right.
So for me, I was like, well, what are they not telling the truth about?
Right.
You know, he made it very clear, you know, he wanted law enforcement to be truthful, and he was kind of asking them to be truthful. So that kind of caught my attention.
Steve Gonzalez was doing the exact same thing at the beginning. Like, you guys need to man up and get this, you know, get it out there, tell what's going on. And he even said that people within the families needed to own up and just realize that their names and their lives are going to get dragged through the dirt. So be prepared, you know. And I think it was a great point about the Chapin. And it's like they're urging them. We've seen your press conferences. You've been lying. You've been BSing. These are our kids' lives.
It's weird to send your kids to that college. I wouldn't, if my child was, their life was taken at this particular college, I don't know that I would send my other kids to that college. That just seems odd.
Well, even outside of the parents, why did the kids want to go back?
Right.
Right.
And people say, well, they want to be involved with their friends. They want to go to the sorority and to the, man, I wouldn't trust anybody. Nobody.
Right. No.
Nobody.
Can you guys just all reconfirm, just because a couple of people are still asking, who exactly does the gag order apply to? Is it just the people in the case? Who actually is held to that gag order?
I think it's all the people
I believe it's anybody
involved.
with direct, anybody with direct information.
Yeah.
Right.
So law enforcement, attorneys, all that.
So not obviously the country or the state, like some people are asking.
No, not at all.
You have everybody that was involved in the investigation, the prosecution, and also the judge Then you're going to have your witnesses that are not allowed to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have any attorneys that represent the families because they
Right.
really want to block representation from speaking. And I think that they did that for lawsuit purposes, mainly. They said, we don't want these guys talking because of lawsuit potential.
Right.
But it's
But
anybody directly involved in what's going to happen when this goes to trial.
Right.
That's it.
Because not all the family members are under gag order.
No. If you're not going to be involved in the trial, if you're not going to be there to testify at the trial, you're not held accountable by a gag.
That's what makes it so strange, is that these neighbors and these people could talk.
Right.
But they don't.
Nothing stopping them. Yeah.
Maybe there's another gag order. Maybe there's like an underground gag order that we don't know about. You know,
Right.
in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Hunter Johnson would be off limits and not be able to talk because he's deemed to have been the one that came in. So he's going to testify what it was like when he entered the home and found the victims. However, his girlfriend can talk all she wants to as long as she wasn't in that home and didn't see anything. If she only knew what happened outside of the home, not the crime scene, but outside of that front door, she can talk all she wants.
Mm-hmm.
Because she wasn't deemed to be any part of the crime scene. She's not a witness to anything.
Right.
She could talk about Dylan running out of the house, falling down, can't breathe, rolling around in the dirt. You can talk about all that you want to because that's not going to be a part of the trial. That means nothing. She didn't see direct evidence. So,
yeah. Hey, AR, can I jump in here for a second? I have that book I want to give away a prize. I didn't want the time to run out before I had a chance to do this, but I've got a copy of a novel I wrote called The Dreadful Lives of Enoch Strange. It's a horror novel. I'll send it to, the first person that I pick with a random number generator. But before I do the question, I need to make sure one thing with Lucky, that he and I were talking about doing a live on Mother's Day, and I ran a poll on the community tab, and everybody overwhelmingly said do the live. So Lucky, if that offer still stands, then you would be part of this question that they have to answer. So are we still going to do that on Mother's Day?
I'm down to do it. Yeah.
All right, cool. So here's the deal. You got to answer this question. Who am I going to do a live with on Mother's Day? And if you can't get that, I know what to tell you. Email me at murdermetalmayhem@gmail.com by Friday midnight. And so the replay crew gets a chance too. And I'll use a random number generator, US only. But I've already signed it. It comes with a bookmark, like all my books do. So I'll send that out to you. And then also we need some mods on Murder Metal Mayhem. So I want to get a few people involved so that I'm doing these every Sunday on the channel. And so if you're interested, whether you've done it or not, that's cool. Just get a hold of me, Pete at murdermetalmayhem.com. And I'd love to put you on the list and get some mods going on. I know Lucky, you were talking about, you were in the searching for some mods too. So
I am. I'm gonna begin getting set up to do live. So I am gonna be looking for some mods here pretty quick. I'll probably post something in my community post. And I need a few because my comment section gets spicy.
You definitely got me. I will always be there for you guys when you guys do lives because this is what I do. So I can always make myself available. And just to let you know, I have a couple of great mods that work with me and Jennifer that would be more than happy to help me help you, and I'll converse with them to make sure of that. But we will always be there to support you. I have to be at your lives because I have to troll you. So I have to be in charge of your chat so nobody can boot me out because I'm going to troll you. I'm going to make your life.
Oh my goodness.
That's my donation to you guys. I'll come in and troll the living daylights out of you and stir up all
geez.
crap that you could
Oh
imagine.
man. Oh
So
man.
there's still tons and tons of questions that we didn't get a chance to answer. Were you guys planning on ending at 2 o'clock or in the 2 hour mark, or did you guys want to go a little bit longer, answer some of these questions?
I'll leave it up to you guys.
I mean, I'll be here for a while.
Yeah, I could
You
stay a
want-
little extra, but I got some stuff I got to get done tonight, so I could stay a little.
Well,
little
if you gotta go, Pete, that's fine. But I just didn't know if anybody else wanted to stay, or if we all want to go, that's fine too.
Lucky and I like to chop it up too, Pete. So we know you have a wife and a life, and I have a wife but no life, so I'll stay.
No, I'll stay to the 2 hour mark, and then if you guys want to take the rest of it. But I want to thank my beautiful wife for of course. I want to thank my beautiful wife Jenny for doing the mod tonight on my channel.
Absolutely.
So appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely thank her from us too. All of you guys are family, man. I know I say friends, but it's even more than that. Like you guys are amazing. And I definitely look up to the both of you, and I definitely watch, and I enjoy everything you guys do. So this is so much fun for me. Lucky we had our opportunity behind the scenes to talk when we were kind of doing our video series that we never finished.
Right.
And we got to engage with each other, and amazing. And Pete and I talk every day. We text message every day. He keeps a good head on my shoulders by, discussing things with me to help guide me in a bit. And so if there's anything I could ever do for the two of you or family or anybody, let me know.
Appreciate
I'll
that.
Oh yeah, will always be there too. So
absolutely.
Well, thank you.
And she's going to guide us back into more questions and shut me up now.
Well, I figured I could ask a couple more. Like I said, I literally have like 70 questions marked, and I apologize because I know everybody's asking questions, and we're not going to get to all of them. But I did want to, get a couple more in here before the time runs out or Pete's leaving. So
the great thing is we're going to be doing it more.
Yeah.
This won't be the
We'll
one
do it
and only
again.
time we do this. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next year.
After
trial.
So Heather wants to know, does anyone think that DM saw a man who had no blood on his face, or will it be said that there was blood?
It's a good question.
I haven't heard any mention of blood.
I think the blood would have already been mentioned.
Why was there no statement in the PCA in the actual description of the suspect? Anything like he was covered in blood. His face was streaked in blood. The knife.
He was holding a big knife. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. I don't know how it was so big, and I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how some of the details you expect somebody to say. Bushy eyebrows compared to covered in blood. Well, we're talking about blood homicide. Which one would make more sense that you would see? I wouldn't see bushy eyebrows before I saw a big knife covered in blood.
Well, and he would definitely be carrying that knife because his sheath was upstairs. So, you know, and I think that's the first thing your eye would be drawn to.
Right.
And they haven't found the knife officially, have they?
No.
The actual knife.
Not that we know of.
Would you guys think, think about that. If they found the knife at the crime scene, would they not make that statement? Like, we got the knife that goes with the actual sheath? Because wouldn't that negate the need to find all the Amazon? They would have the knife. Like, they would have it.
Well, yeah. In most cases, they announce that right away. We have the murder weapon because that's the smoking gun that they always say for when they go to trial.
Right. Well, and I think that
the public that they got the right person, you know.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day because, you know, they were saying, well, you know, these trials take time, and we all know that they take time. But I feel like if they had the goods on Brian Kohberger, that this would already be out there. I think it's going to be odd if they string this along for 2 or 3 years, and then at the very end they go, oh, this is why he was guilty. We've had it all along.
Right.
That's going to piss some people off, because why string it out for so long, spend so much money and venues and staffing and everything else? That's why I just don't feel like they have anything concrete right now.
And if they did, wouldn't you think Brian be taking a deal to get out of the death penalty? I mean, that would be the obvious one. If they had the goods on him, you don't think so, AR?
No, I've been around too many of them where they actually legitimately had the goods on them and they still fought it all out in trial. Now, Brian Kohlberger could be a totally different beast than any of these other people. But if he committed a quadruple homicide, they had the goods on him, he's still going to battle it out because he's going to be found guilty either way. And he's smart enough to know life in the penitentiary without the possibility of parole compared to the death penalty. You don't want to go do life without parole. You don't want to do it. I mean, it's just, it's for people that have been there and done long years, long stretches, it gets old quick. It gets old quick. And we all said, man, I wish I'd done something to been on death row or taken out by the cops. Like this isn't worth it. But
wow.
I mean, to kind of iterate what you guys are saying, if they really had it, if this was a lockdown, we got you nailed case, they wouldn't need this strict of a gag order.
No.
It would be nailed down. They got you. Why gag it? The defense wouldn't be gag it because why would they need to? You're nailed. They got you. But there hasn't even been a slip. So
right. That maybe they're protecting someone. I think that's what this gag order is about. It just seems strange that they're really concerned about any tiny little detail getting out. Any little detail getting out. I mean, it's crazy. Watching this court case is odd.
But if you got the right person in custody, why would the prosecution be worried about anybody being in danger unless they felt there's a connection to Brian Kohlberger that's still out there? I mean, that would be the only way. There's a connection to somebody else who is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like maybe trying to protect one of their witnesses that doesn't get out that they're going to be a witness on trial, that somebody could go after them.
And Brian Kohlberger's family doesn't seem to be the dangerous type that would go try to take out a state prosecution witness.
No.
What if they're protecting? What if there's somebody? There was somebody at that house that did see who committed this crime, and it wasn't Brian Kohlberger.
Now
so they're shield. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what, in the back of my mind, from the background I come from, there's a witness or somebody that has information, heard it, seen it from afar. Maybe not a witness at the crime scene, but they know of something from afar that ties more to this case than just Brian Kohlberger.
Right.
And the investigation is still rolling, and they're looking for corroborating evidence to get an arrest warrant. And at that point, of course, it's going to get drug out in the court system because they have a man in custody, but they have to be able to prove that that man in custody is 100% guilty, and they need this other individual to be able to tie all that together. And they need that corroborating evidence to be able to get that other individual. Mm-hmm. And maybe that other individual just happens to not be walking on earth anymore. So now they're struggling with the whole corroboration. But that would still, nobody would be in danger at that point. Because if he's not with us anymore, unless it's Demetrius, who nobody knows where he is right now or what he's doing. Maybe he could be a dangerous key, and they just haven't got enough evidence on him yet. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
Could be anybody. Could be anybody. Could be Jack S. Could be Jack D. It could be any of them.
Right.
Could be any of them.
Yeah. Definitely very crazy.
Some arrests don't happen for 20 or 30 years, and people forget that.
That's true.
That's true.
Look at the Golden State Killer.
Right.
What was that? 40-something years down the road they got
crazy. Him? Yeah.
Good time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think at any time during those 40 years they had a hint of an idea it was him? And that's why they kept following up to find him?
Mhm.
Yep.
I
Very
hope it doesn't take
fascinating
that long
case.
in this. I don't want to do YouTube for the next 20 years talking Idaho.
Yeah, that would get old really quick.
I just don't want to do it.
There's other cases to talk about too, though.
Let's go back to Chris
for sure.
Watts.
Oh man. Let's see. So Richard says, have you heard that the school was reprimanded for threatening to arrest teachers' assistants for talking about birth control? It was a memo on the White House on September 20th. I guess that is on Fight Idaho. Sorry.
I just say I don't know anything about that one.
No
I
idea.
take my birth control on a regular, so I don't know.
Sorry, I was looking for an Idaho 4 question. That was the first one I popped up, but that was an Idaho 4. Does anyone know if LE Moscow officer Justin Heath arrested has anything to do with this case? He was supposedly a great officer, but there is nothing past his arrest.
What's his name?
Justin Heath.
Have you guys
Never
heard
heard
of
of him.
Justin Heath?
No,
I
I never
have
even
not.
heard of him. Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
We don't know.
Sorry.
You know, that's a crazy thing, too, and I'm sure you guys realize that some of our subscribers are some deep divers. They come
Oh,
up with
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well, they're amazing. They're amazing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
appreciate all of them.
I get great
Definitely.
information every day. You know,
Yeah.
there's always people with great thoughts, great insight, great information all the time.
How do you guys get all this good stuff, and I just get love letters?
It's that hair, man. It's that
That's
hair,
it.
buddy.
All those guys that just love me.
Oh my goodness.
It's that beautiful smile. Like I was telling Pete last night, I grew teeth lucky, and now all of a sudden the world's changed.
There you go, man. There you go.
That's right. Hollywood will be calling.
Now I'm going to go shave my head and show what old age really does.
Hicks was wondering, why are the cops saying no drugs in the victims' bodies? Kaylee was vaping at the food truck. But isn't vaping is not something that they count as a drug? So drugs would be like harder stuff, right?
Well, it could be because in Idaho, she could have been vaping nicotine, or she could have been vaping other things.
THC, right?
Right. And if she was vaping THC, then that would be illegal, because in Idaho, they don't even have
Right.
medical in Idaho. It's straight illegal. So yeah. But I mean, it could have just been a nicotine vape.
I find it hard to believe there was no drugs in any of their systems. I'm finding that very hard to believe.
I'm finding that hard to believe myself.
Especially if you think about like a college party, they're drinking, and usually there is some type of drugs involved in those type of parties.
Well, and how do we know that there was no drugs in their system? Because who said that?
Yeah.
True.
Steve Gonsalves
Family.
said that. So,
Right,
I don't,
of course.
so who knows? I mean, if it was my child, I would probably say the same thing,
Right. Of course.
I guess that's where I'm different, because, if I have to stand before, I just don't want to BS. And if I knew my son or daughter had a habit, I think it's just better to be upfront about it and say, look, my child was struggling. They had a habit. They were battling it. They were trying to better their lives. They were going to college, because it's going to come out. It's going to come out anyway. And I don't want to look like the liar by putting on the front that my kid's the best thing in the world walking down the street. Well, maybe not.
I think it's just one of the, after the whole stalking thing, they were stalking the girls. He was stalking the girls,
Right.
He said a few things that, that
stalking and hunting.
Really, yes.
Yeah,
stalking and hunting.
hunting.
Yeah.
And see, that was a term, too, that really caught my ear. When someone uses the term stalking, I think kind of like the crazy guy that's sexually based. You got to worry about like the sexual attack, the weird guy that looks in the windows. But when you put the term hunting into that makes me think serial killer.
Right.
Like it switches my mindset that little bit. Like now we're not just playing the little follow the girl around the block type thing, you know, looking through the binoculars through the window to get a peek or taking a picture here or there. Because I don't know if you guys remember the pictures that came out way back at the beginning. It looked like Kaylee with the bathroom door. She was in her bra or a black outfit, kind of looking sexy. It looked like it could be a stalker
from behind, right? It was
and you never see her hear anything.
I have that. Yeah, I have that picture. It's kind of an eerie picture, though. When you look
really
at it,
is.
you know, it's kind of an eerie picture.
To me, when I looked at that didn't give me the feeling of stalker. That gave me, when Steve said hunter, it was a hunter. That picture made me feel like that, like you're my prey. I'm right here. I see you from behind. I'm watching you, and I can get you at any moment that I choose. I can get you. But what's really odd is, when did that picture get taken if nobody even knew she was going to be back in town? Was it that night? Was
that
it
picture?
2 days prior to that?
That picture was posted, I think, on the night of the 13th.
Right.
That's why it was a big deal, because I think that picture was posted on the night of the 13th, you know, after they had already discovered the victims and stuff. That picture was posted that very same day.
Oh, geez.
So would that have been from them coming back to the bar and getting ready for bed type picture? Or was that pre going to the bar, not dressed yet? Because it seems like a very dark picture. Very dark.
And it's hard to know if it is even Kaylee, because you're seeing it from the back. It does look exactly like her. It looks like her hair and everything else, but I mean, I wouldn't say 100% certainty. You know, it's possible, but it does look like she's standing kind of in front of Maddie's bedroom door, facing the bathroom upstairs.
Could that be the tripod camera out back? And it was
no, this looks like it's from inside the house. This looks like it's from directly behind Kaylee.
Wow.
So it looks like maybe somebody took it from the top of the stairs, maybe, and Kaylee's standing in front of Maddie's bedroom door is what it looks like. And she's facing out, so you can't see her face. You can only see it from the back.
Yeah.
I have that photo. I'll post it at some point. I have that photo.
Because I think she was either in a black skimpy top or even a bra.
I think it was a bra.
Yeah, it seemed more of a like promiscuous type photo, you know, and I don't know. It just gave me a weird feeling when I heard stalking hunting, and then I remembered that picture, and I went back to even try to figure out where I saw that and research it. And then I'm thinking about that going, that's a really odd picture with that statement being made.
Right. Hey, guys, I think I'm going to take off here. Sorry to break up the party, but I got to.
That's all right. We're definitely going to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate it. I'll let you guys answer the rest of these questions, but it was great to talk to you both, and great to have the interaction with all the people here in the chat and on the channels, all of it. Just thank you very, very much. So
yeah, absolutely great having you, and we can't wait to do it again, and we'll talk very soon, Pete.
All right, man. Absolutely. We'll see you guys later.
Have a good one. Yeah.
So
Lucky, you up for a little bit longer, or are you ready to roll?
I'm down for a couple more questions.
All right.
All right. Rose wants to know, do you guys think there are more than one killer? There's more than one killer.
I think there's more than one involved. As far as I do, I think there's more than one.
I know everybody keeps telling us that we can look at all these different individual people that have committed crimes that took many lives with them. This just doesn't feel like a single perp.
No.
And it doesn't feel like a single mind that knew what was going on or happening. It also doesn't feel like a single mind that knew after the fact what needed to happen to clean it all up. So
Right.
know.
For me, it's the containment issue. For me, it's the whole idea that one person, went started upstairs, and it just doesn't make sense. There's no containment. So I don't understand why nobody ran or why nobody, fled the scene. I feel like you would have had to have some sort of containment in this house.
Yeah, and I just feel it would be a little overwhelming for Brian Koberger to individually do this, and then to keep it, like you said, contained, not only within the crime, but even the word and the talking and everything going around, rumors, and
right.
man, I mean, to just
more
walk
people,
normal.
Yeah, I think it's strange. I think that, I mean, I think it's possible? Yeah, I do think it's possible, but I think it would need to be somebody. I just don't see it with Brian Koberger.
You know what? And I just don't feel that you go walking through Albertsons the next morning, literally with no sleep. You got to be tired. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean that's just so odd to me. And just no wounds, no apparent nicks, cuts, bruises, scratches.
Right.
Plucked up hairdo, something, black eye, stub toe, nothing.
Some sort of injury. I mean, if you look at, I've been kind of doing some stuff with the OJ case, because of everything going on, and there's a lot of similarities when you start comparing these things. I mean, he got 2 victims with a knife. Now, that's one of the things when people say, well, do you think this crime scene at the King Roadhouse, was a mess? And I always say, go look at the OJ pictures. Go look at Nicole Brown Simpson's front patio. And that'll tell you what that scene looked like. I mean, it was a mess. And that was 2 people. So imagine 4,
on 2 different floors. Meaning you're tracking everything with you. Yeah, you're tracking it all with you.
Right.
And in the back of my mind, I think too, I agree with you. Could it be done? Sure. But I think the 2 floors makes it extremely difficult. And then, I mean, would he go after committing the